Coming back to William Shakespeare, Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer introduced, rhyme royal. Then he also introduced a particular, a narrative technique, or a storytelling technique in certain poems. It's called the dream allegory. You know, he is credited with the introduction of dream allegory in literature. Dream allegory was not his own, but he borrowed it. Then frame story narrative was introduced into English literature by Geoffrey Chaucer. Was frame story narrative his own? It is by Boccaccio, the Italian Italian writer. He had written a beautiful work called Decameron, 100 Tales, and after meeting Boccaccio and after reading Decameron, Decameron means a beautiful collection of how many stories? 100 stories narrated by 10 people. 10 people who are running away from an epidemic. They are on the state border. They happen to meet in a particular house. They stay in the house and they start telling stories to keep themselves engaged, because most of the time they were having existential crisis because there was epidemic which was killing people. Lakhs and lakhs of people were dying out, and these people were staying in a house from different places unknown to each other. They come together, men and women, and they start narrating tales. And those tales became a collection called a Decameron. And Geoffrey Chaucer was inspired by Decameron. He was so ambitious that he wanted to write 120 stories, forming a frame narrative. And he worked on a particular cultural practice. What is a cultural practice? During spring season, Englishmen had the habit of going on a pilgrimage, either inside the country or outside the country. Rich people went to foreign countries, pilgrimage to Holy Land. And can you tell me in the Canterbury Tales, there was one character among the 29 pilgrims who was traveling to a foreign country. After several visits to the Holy Land, she was also making a pilgrimage to Canterbury.
Madam.
It is wife of Bath. Okay. Wife of Bath is the right answer. Wife of Bath had been to the Holy Land, and she is one of the people who had traveled extensively, and now she is making a journey to the Canterbury. All these people happen to enter into Tabard Inn in Southwark, London. Southwark is the cheap side of London, and there are 29 people from different walks of life. There will be questions from this particular poem. Get ready. Where there is a prologue which describes the various characters based on the hierarchy, beginning with the knight, ending with the plowman, the last one in the social cadre. And then each one is, who is the judge for the storytelling contest? The storytelling contest is initiated by, Harry Bailey, the host of Tabard Inn. He tells we will have a storytelling contest. 29 people are in a company, and Chaucer is already there. So he doesn't belong to this company, but he is going to travel. So 30 people, 2 stories towards Canterbury and 2 stories while returning, and a prize will be given to the best storyteller. Who is the one? What is it? What is the prize? It's a meal. It's a meal, not a supper, not a dinner. The exact term has to be given as answer. It's a meal. It's a meal at the expense of everybody. And we need to know that what is the meter used in Canterbury Tales, which was again an import by Chaucer.
Iambic pentameter.
Beautiful. Iambic pentameter was a foreign import. He imported into English literature. Iambic pentameter, unstressed syllable followed by stressed syllable. 5 sets of this. Unstressed syllable followed by stressed syllable is 1 unit. There will be 5 units in the line. So there will be 10 syllables. As such line will be there. So I am just giving you how to prepare. That's all. Now going to the first work. I have just begin the first work now. Only 20 minutes left. Just to give you how to go with. Don't find fault with me for not completing the whole, because no true trainer can do that within 1.5 hours time. But you can always write to me or talk to me, and we can help each other. Okay. Now coming to Beowulf. Beowulf was published little later, but was there in Vogue. It is a story about continental Germanic, and it is the most patriotic work. It is a work which marked the beginning of nationalism. Why do we call it? Because people from the remote corner came to the mainland to help the emperor, Hortaga. Beowulf, the hero, titular hero. If the work is named after the hero, the work gets a unique name. What is it called? A work which carries the name of the protagonist work. Okay, beautiful. Okay, I think there are people who would clear a net in the first attempt itself. I'm so much informed. Okay, I'm so happy for you all. Okay, now eponymous work. Now look at the work. This poem is set in Scandinavia, and Beowulf is a hero from Keats. And this particular work, you find Beowulf is fighting with a monster, and the name of the monster is Grendel, and then Grendel's mother, and there is a fire-spitting dragon. And the whole thing is to do with facing a dragon and saving the country. That's why we call it as a national epic, the first national epic. Let me ask you a question. What is the second national epic of England? This is Faerie Queen. Okay, Faerie Queen. Faerie Queen contains how many books?
6 books.
Okay, 6 plus 1. You have to answer it as 6. The last one is in fragments. Okay, it's titled, it is based on a virtue called the Magnificence. Okay, and you know what is the purpose of Edmund Spenser in writing Faerie Queen? He wanted, based on Queen Elizabeth, he wanted to eulogize her, and he had a personal motive. He wanted to win the heart of Queen Elizabeth, and he wanted a position in the court. You know, Edmund Spenser was all the time in Ireland. He wanted to be in England, but he was only sent to Ireland, and through his friend, who is the friend who helped Edmund Spenser to take the script to Queen Elizabeth?
Philip Sidney.
Edmund Spenser's Faerie Queen. Who is the work dedicated to? Another famous man. Sir Walter Raleigh was the one to whom he makes this dedication, because it is Sir Walter Raleigh who was very close with the Queen. So through him, he hoped that this work will reach the Queen and he will win the favor of the Queen. But he received only a meager pension, and Edmund Spenser was very upset about it. Okay, and actually he was having Queen Elizabeth in mind while he created the character Gloriana, the Faerie Queen. And there is one more character in that particular, a female knight who appears in one of the books. I think a female knight. Calidore is a knight. King Arthur is there as a knight. Okay. There is a female knight. Who is a female knight? Take this as a question. And these two characters, and that female knight represents the virtue called chastity. You know, the initial plan was to base this whole epic on the 12 virtues put forward by Aristotle in a book called Narcomachian Ethics. Okay, Aristotle wrote a book called Ethics. It's called, Uma Maheshwari has given me the answer. It is Britomat. Britomatis or Britomart. And that particular knight represents the virtue called chastity, a chaste queen. Queen Elizabeth is a chaste queen and the glorious one. So both the elements are combined in one person. And you have King Arthur, who represents magnificence. Okay, book 1 is very much available in the channel JS in English Learning. You can very well read through. And because in last let exam, they had asked a question. Okay, totally how many knights are discussed in that particular epic poem? How many knights? They do not say about good knights and bad knights. They asked a question: how many knights make their appearance in Faerie Queen, that particular epic poem? Okay, that was a question. So if you need to get, and what is the purpose of writing that poem? What is the purpose? Okay, to fashion gentlemen in virtue. That's the motto. That's the mission of Sir Edmund Spenser. Are you with me? Okay.
Yes,
Now
sir.
coming to the prose writers, we have Venerable Bede, then you have King Alfred, who is called the father of English literature, and then you have Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which became the source for several English plays of William Shakespeare. Based on Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, Holinshed developed his chronicle, and that in his Holinshed's chronicle became the source work for the English plays of William Shakespeare. Okay. Now coming to the prose, we have Venerable Bede. I was speaking about it. All these texts will be with you, so don't worry. These are the writers. Now coming to the 4 dialects. Okay, what are the 4 prominent dialects in England before Chaucer? These are the 4 dialects. Okay, the old Northumbrian dialect, and then the East Midland dialect, West Midland dialect, then the Southwestern, also called as American, then the Southeastern or Kentish, and then the Southwestern or West Saxony. Of that, East Midland dialect became modern English. Then you have pagan poems. You may be asked question here, so get to know these. Now going a bit faster, we will be getting into Middle English period, where you will have Pearl Poet. Okay, Pearl Poet, and then Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and this appears in net exam question papers on 3 occasions, where there is a beheading contest in the background. There is a beheading contest. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight has a particular theme in which there is a beheading context. Now let me ask you, there is a poem written by William Chaucer which has a hunt which is in progress in the background, and there is a knight who is in mourning costume for his lady. What is the name of the work? It's called Book of Duchess, and where the author uses symbolism, color symbolism, black, white. The man is dressed in black. He often speaks about his lady as white, and white is taken away by Fortuna, and there is a reference to chess game which is played there. Can you tell me a play of William Shakespeare in which the important characters are playing a game of chess? It's one of the last plays of William Shakespeare. I'm giving you the clue.
Tempest, sir.
Tempest.
The Tempest is the play. Okay, Tempest is the play where Ferdinand and who is the heroine, Miranda, they are playing a game of chess when Prospero along with his erstwhile friends, they are reconciled and they are coming, and Miranda turns back and looks at a big gathering of people. She has not seen so many people prior to that particular scene. She knows only Prospero, she knows Caliban. You know, there is a beautiful essay written with the name of Caliban. There was a famous writer who wrote an essay, Caliban upon Setebos. Okay, when you think about Caliban, remember that essay and find out who his essayist and in what context that particular essay was written. That is how you need to now. I'm going to Tempest to tell you how to prepare. Okay, when he looks at a big number of people, she utters a statement called Brave New World. And Brave New World became the title for a famous novel written by a famous writer. Who is the author who wrote a novel titled The Brave New World? Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley is the writer who wrote the work Brave New World. You know, that is a prophetic work. A work which prophesied what is likely to happen in the near future. He was speaking about gene selection. He was speaking about cloning. He was speaking about categorizing people on the basis of gene. Okay, that was prophesied long back. Okay, it's a beautiful. What type of work was it? Is it an utopian work or a dystopian work?
Dystopian work, sir.
It's a dystopia. Dystopia means a work which is situated in the future where the very thought of the work will instill spine-chilling fear in you because you cannot think of such a world. Okay. Now we will move a little further. Come to Chaucer. During Chaucer, there were three great poets who were the contemporaries of Chaucer. One is John Gower. What is the title given by John Gower to Geoffrey Chaucer? Oh, moral Gower. That is what Chaucer said about John Gower. Okay. John Gower attributed a work to Geoffrey Chaucer. What is the work? These are questions to provoke you to do some study. Let me tell you, when it comes to Chaucer, I wish that you people do a few things. Number one, okay, prepare some citations based on critical comments on Geoffrey Chaucer. What are the critics? What do the critics say about Geoffrey Chaucer in their works? I think I have some 40 such citations. Okay, writers speaking about Geoffrey Chaucer and his contribution to literature. There are 40 different quotations taken from 40 different works. And some of them are positive, some of them are negative about Chaucer. Okay, so you need to know who are the writers in which work. You know, there was a man who criticized Chaucer for lacking high seriousness. Who was it? In one of the famous, okay, fantastic, I would say. Matthew Arnold, in a famous essay called The Study of Poetry, he says, Geoffrey Chaucer is a very good writer, but he lacks high seriousness. Okay, and his work can be taken. Do you think that he recommends Geoffrey Chaucer to be one of the touchstones? Okay, Matthew Arnold speaks about touchstone. Selective passages from a selected writer which can stand as the benchmark to assess certain works of art. What are the touchstones recommended by Matthew Arnold? Gate is very much celebrated by John, and even Spencer. Very good. Okay, so these are the things. Now coming to the contemporaries of Geoffrey Chaucer. I have one beautiful recommendation for you. Go to Hudson and find what Hudson has to say about John Wycliffe. What is the title given by Hudson to John Wycliffe? John Wycliffe is given a title by Hudson. He is called as Morning Star of Reformation. He is called the Morning Star of Reformation. And after eulogizing John Wycliffe, who are the followers of John Wycliffe? How are they called? They are called the Lollards. Lollards. Lollards, am I right?
Yes, sir.
They are called Lollards. And you find that this man was having Reformation zeal. He wanted to free the church from corruption. So John Wycliffe was the first one to translate the New Testament into English. One of the Bible translators. He is the one who is celebrated by Hudson. And then he speaks about Geoffrey Chaucer. He says, if this man, Wycliffe, can be, if he is called the Morning Star of Reformation, Geoffrey Chaucer can be called the Morning Star of Renaissance. And then he makes a distinction between Geoffrey Chaucer and William Langland. He gives a title. He calls Geoffrey Chaucer as the poet of the court. And he calls William Langland as people's poet because he was the one who spoke about the longing of the people, the feelings of the people. Whereas he says Chaucer made only passing comments about the corruption of the church. He did not voice against it. That is the accusation made by William Hudson about Chaucer. Did you get that, participants? Now, look into these writers, prose writers, and coming to the very important writer in the period between Chaucer to Shakespeare is Sir Thomas Malory. When we think about Thomas Malory, what should we remember? He wrote a very famous
Day author.
Les Mater Dei author, which began a beautiful study of Arthurian legend. It speaks about King Arthur and his round table knight, how glorious it was and how adventurous were the round table knights. It is a work which celebrates that particular Arthurian. It's an Arthurian romance. Can you tell me, there was an 18th century writer who used Sir Thomas Malory's La Mate de Arthur in his work. Based on that, he wrote a work. It's called Idylls of the King. This is how you need to connect and study.